What is up, YouTube? So the newest Naruto episode has been released, so I'm here to do my review. I believe I'm actually quite early this time, just a few hours off from the actual translation release date. So this is going to be quite in-depth because I feel this was a very good chapter of Naruto, and therefore something that should be talked about in depth. So forget the freaking 5 minute review that a lot of people are doing on this. Um, it's a shame that a lot of people won't be watching this video because I have a lot of good points to say. Regardless, let's cut the crap. We need to get into this. If you're wondering why I'm speaking so quickly and just cutting all the unnecessary words out, it is to get the most out in the least amount of time to keep this video under 20 minutes or even 15 minutes. So I have the play-by-play right here on my iTouch, and I want to go through each, well, not every single page, but just a general idea because it is pretty insane at times. And again, first and final spoiler alert warning. I'm assuming you've read this chapter. It is chapter 642, and yeah, there will be, for the most part, no summary. So the first big thing is we realize that Obito is he's he's like crazy powerful right now, and it's pretty much confirmed by now that he has regained consciousness. He knows who he is now. Uh, he's he, he's we don't know for sure if this is the final form of the Ten Tails Biju, or maybe this is still considered the second to last form. I'm assuming this is the final form. I mean, it is the Sage of the Six Paths form. He looks like the Sage of the Six Paths, so I'm assuming it's the final form. So he is pretty overpowered right now, and it's pretty insane, his power level, and the fact that he's so quickly after becoming the Jinchuriki has developed a sort of control over this power, as well as retaining sanity and all his memories and stuff, although he didn't have them initially. And it just shows that either he's just like a prodigy in terms of ninjutsu and just being a ninja. Because I mean, look at Naruto. Even him being a prodigy, he still hasn't really. I mean, it's taking him so long to um, gain the Nine Tails power, and I mean, let's be honest, the only reason why he has full control of the Nine Tails is because the QB decided, okay, it's a life or death situation. I'd rather give it to Naruto than Madara. So it's sort of potentially just a temporary thing. And because of this life or death situation, I'm sure afterwards they've developed a friendship that will allow them to continue using it, similar to how the Eight Tails Jinchuriki relationship. However, if it was not for the appearance of Madara and this life or death situation, who's to say even Naruto would have mastered the Jinchuriki despite having it since birth? So for Obito to have mastered it so quickly, that is quite incredible. So another interesting point, and it's not very clear based on the panel drawn. So feel free to leave a comment to clarify right now if you want. But uh, either what happened is that at least at the end of the last chapter we see this Obito being hit with the Naruto slash Sasuke slash Flying Thunder God body swap technique with the Amaterasu Rasengan, and from what I saw, it hit him, but it's not clear here. It seems like it either hit him and then the black orbs reacted and then just pushed it away, and then he emerged well, not unharmed, but like because he's so powerful, it did so little damage to him. Despite it being such a huge attack, it's still insignificant to him. Or it seems like the black spheres were just so quick that it seemed like it did not hit him, but no, it seemed like it hit him, but the black spheres were just so quick that they reacted in time and blocked the entire attack. And I would go with the first supposition because um, the whole last chapter before this, it seemed to imply that Obito was not expecting it and he did not have enough time to react. And even in this panel, in one of the panels, Tobirama seems to mention that there's no way the black spheres that he controls had enough time to react. And so it's, regardless of which one it is, he emerges pretty much unscathed from this attack, which is saying just how powerful he is. I mean, this is a high caliber level attack, and I mean, if this was on almost anyone else right now, they would probably be dead. I mean, it's a full contact attack, and for him to emerge from that is just incredible. And now we see, again, here's another interesting thing, an evolved form of Obito again. Like, first he's gained consciousness now and he's regained his memories, but here's another interesting thing that we did not see before. I mean, Minato's arm is now regenerating, and like I've said numerous times in my previous Naruto reviews, arm regeneration that's like body regeneration is why I thought the Hokages would have a good huge chance against Obito, because despite dying and going full out, they can just completely regenerate, and so they are technically immortal in a way. And because Tobirama invented this Edo Tensei, it's like that's some OP stuff right there. They can't die and they could just keep regenerating and they're immortal. And on top of that, they are Hokages with like probably at least in the top 5 to 10 in the entire Naruto universe in terms of power level. So this is some crazy stuff. And yeah, we see in this chapter they can't do that anymore, and it's been explained why, because Obito has evolved and now he's using black and white. Apparently it's called black and white ninjutsu. There's like different forms of ninjutsu. It makes sense. There's space ninjutsu, time ninjutsu, space and time ninjutsu, and then the typical ones like fire jutsu and stuff like that. So now this is like the most OP form, black and white. I don't think, apparently I believe it's been mentioned in the past, but again, it hasn't really been touched on because I guess no one has been able to use it since. I believe there's this one time in the distant past where Kakashi himself sort of mentioned it, and then he mentioned it along with space and time ninjutsu, mainly to discuss all the ninjutsus, and just space and time ninjutsu. I guess it was when they were discussing Obito before they knew it was Obito and discussing his teleportation techniques. But now we see it, and now we see it can nullify any sort of technique, including Edo Tensei. So now we have 4 mortal Hokages, and I mean that decreases their power levels tremendously. They can't just keep going all in and testing out the abilities. By the way, where is the okay, where are the other Hokages was my question, but I know Hashirama's there, Tobirama's there, Minato's there. Who's that leaving out? Where's the third Hokage? What's he been doing for the last like 2 to 3 chapters? Ever since like the first attack, I have not seen him around. So that's a good question. Doesn't really matter because I mean he's kind of weak, especially now that he can't just keep testing out techniques, which he did before. And yeah, again, this is a huge increase in power level with Obito, because now the Hokages can't just keep going all out and dying just to figure out how Obito works, because they will die as well. Plus Minato's down 1 arm, and on top of that, on top of that, Obito has like the freaking dark orbs now. And we saw like initially when Obito first became the Jinchuriki, he could just like tear through these Hokages, and the Hokages would just regenerate. So it's definitely saying something about this. And we see a little bit more about Obito's techniques, and I would relate it to the Green Lantern the superhero Green Lantern, because the Green Lantern, he has if you don't know, he has a ring, and then he can use this ring and shoot out. Um, he can create any sort of object, and the imagination is his only limit, and so he can create like vast sized objects with all these different shapes, and um, that is what Obito is doing with the spheres. You see him do it at the end when he deflects the frog's sort of like attack, and he just uses the spheres, and the spheres turn into this giant sort of shield around him, and that just very much reminded me of the Green Lantern. And so here's another thing that might have escaped a lot of people's mention. Um, I'm using mangastream.com. You can read the manga for free there. Basically, there is this panel with Sasuke talking, and basically, this is something that a lot of people miss, and basically Naruto saying like we need to up our power levels tremendously. We need to go like we need to like put in like 300% work if we want to take this guy down. And he's saying that to Sasuke because yeah, Obito just proved how OP he is. And then Sasuke remarks, I won't even dignify that with a response. And that's just one aspect of Sasuke that I think a lot of people don't really understand in terms of personality, and a lot of people get wrong in terms of what kind of person Sasuke is. And it shows that he's a lot more darker of a person, sort of emo, and that's a kind of unique response that um, a lot of emo people I know in real life would give, that I know, and especially during my high school years, I know a lot of people like that. Partially me in one respect or another back in my dark days in high school. So again, it's a very unique sort of personality, sort of trait that Sasuke has, and again, it just exemplifies Naruto as a manga. You're able to draw out these unique personalities, whereas with other manga, especially stuff like I don't want to name call, but other manga, you don't really get this because the author isn't creative, and I guess they're not in tune with reality, and they draw out these very bland, generic personalities. With someone like Sasuke, you see this like dark, sort of almost emo personality that's sometimes realistic, but at the same time very dark and a little bit twisted. So it's very unique and realistic, whereas other manga, they just don't have it in them and have very generic, bland, expected and slash sort of predicted personalities. And if you don't know, again, this is a reference. There's a channel on YouTube, Nigahiga, one of the top channels in entire YouTube. I believe 10 million subscribers or something. He's an Asian as well. He recently released a video, and it was a Naruto live action sort of spoof trailer on a Naruto movie, and it was well done in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways you could tell that he really did not really understand the intricacies of the manga. And I don't want to make this into a review of that, but I don't even know if I want to do a review on that. Leave your comments below if you want me to do a review on Nigahiga's spoof trailer of the Naruto live action. But in essence, you can tell he's one of those people who just skims the manga and doesn't really read into it, because he made he made Sasuke seem more like this sort of happy-go-lucky figure, and this panel here, with him just with Sasuke just saying, I won't even dignify that with a response. That sort of response that dark sort of response Sasuke has, he didn't really imply that with the personality that he drew from the spoof trailer in his video, because in his trailer Sasuke was more kind of like a well, not exactly happy-go-lucky, but more of an optimistic guy, and it kind of shows that he doesn't really understand, at least in depth, the characters. But again, moving on from that, this is more. Let's not get off track here. Um, Hold on, the page is loading. So we see now another huge thing. Senjutsu, okay? Basically, you can look this up on the Naruto wiki. Senjutsu is basically the ability to capture in the environment's nature and use that as energy for attack. And Naruto's Sage Mode is a good example, and Jiraiya's techniques another good example. Um, with this, we see that Obito is in fact vulnerable to something again. This, however, really restricts things because although it is true, I mean, who can really use Senjutsu? I don't think Sasuke can, at least not very well. And so it might just be down to maybe Tobirama or just Naruto, and then Tobirama and the others are left to simply distracting Obito, while Naruto is down to the only one who is actually capable of landing an actual attack on Obito. So that might be the play of things next chapter. Um, yeah, it's very interesting. Maybe it's just kind of like a weakness. You see Obito just brushing off these massive attacks, and then we see Senjutsu as a capability. By the way, Senjutsu is kind of a little bit like a nod towards DBZ and the Spirit Bomb attack, with the Spirit, like, I mean, again, spoiler alert for DBZ, but gathering energy from surroundings and using it. And it's just very interesting, and this could be a weakness. I mean, we see Obito coming in, brushing off these techniques like it's nothing, and then Senjutsu works on him. So apparently he cannot nullify Senjutsu for some strange reason. Maybe because it is based on nature, you can't really nullify nature, whereas you can for other forms of ninjutsu using the black and white techniques. And so the final thing is, despite being hit by Senjutsu, you see Obito still being able to respond back with like a arg, you hit me sort of thing. And therefore it seems like, again, it still did not do a lot of damage, which just again shows how overpowered Obito is. And I guess Senjutsu is the final route for defeating Obito, but again, it still does not do massive damage to him. They still have to put in a lot of work, but it is the best avenue for defeating him as of right now, because nothing else really works on him. And so we see a lot of flashbacks with the sort of idea of Obito just not really wanting to lecture them anymore. And again, Tobirama, again, I props to Tobirama, respect, because he mentions in a dialogue something that's pretty badass and again very offensive, but the way he says it, it just shows his personality. He does not care what other people think. He will insult you if he thinks you deserve an insult. And he pretty much says something like, Minato, like father, like son, both of you. No. He insults Naruto, but at the same time, by doing so, insults his father. He says Naruto is like father, like son, both mentally challenged. And I'm just like, yo, that's Tobirama for you, because again, Naruto and his father were showing a sort of simple-minded foolishness that Tobirama was not standing for. And so I'm not gonna go too much into that, but again, Tobirama, I think he does it twice in this chapter. This sort of I don't care mentality. And so, final thing. I mean, this flashback with a little bit of a flashback for Minato. Again, it's very sad. It's kind of dark what happened. Um, Again, the motive. I'm sure a lot of people have been commenting and just saying that the motive for Obito is kind of lame. And I guess the reason is, I mean, I've done a whole video on this topic, solely this topic, but again, I can understand why it's lame to a few of you guys. The general consensus is that you don't see Obito being driven so passionately by this motive. You don't realistically see someone in real life actually be driven by such a foolish motive. Like, that can only take you so far. It's a girl that you met, what, that you last saw when you were like 13. You haven't seen him again. Now you're a full-grown adult, and you're going on about this because it's like the only girl you've ever known. But for me, at the same time, it can happen. I mean, obviously it can happen, but you have to have a very unhealthy mentality. It can go around. You have to go through a very dark route, and it's kind of like that's the only girl you have to be interested in because of your scarcity of other girls. And again, it's a lot of unhealthy mentality that got Obito to where he is. So personally, I think it is realistic. It can be done. Some of you guys might just be like, come on, there's no way someone would be so hung up over this 13-year-old girl that died who was your crush when you were young. And I mean, I'm saying it can be done. That's all Obito's ever known, and maybe he was just that sort of loser who didn't have too many friends, or maybe that was the only girl who was interested in him or showed interest in him, and therefore, like, after that, like, I mean, he was in isolation for years after that, and he was stuck in isolation, so he really didn't have much to go on, and therefore his obsession just grew into some sort of dark thing. And I feel like Madara did that on purpose. I mean, there's a lot of mystery to what Madara was doing, and there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and it very much seemed like Madara was setting it up so that Obito fell into this pathway. So I personally think it's definitely possible. I mean, personally, I went through a little bit of that when I grew up. It was just a sort of scarcity in girls that kind of led me to a sort of loserish, sort of a little bit of an obsession, and then a little bit of a depression. But finally, the last panel on the last page shows this thing, and it seems to be the QB. Like, I'm almost sure it's the QB, and it's the nine-tailed fox silhouette saying something like, Naruto's passion has been enough even to move this half of me. So I've yet to do research on this. I'm pretty sure I will eventually after I do this video footage, but feel free to clarify in the comments below if you want. That very well much inform me, but I believe what's happened here is that Naruto, with his seal on the QB, basically the QB has massive amounts of chakra. It is not infinite, but is near infinite, and so the 10 tails surpasses it because the 10 tails chakra is, I guess, infinite, but the Naruto chakra, the QB chakra, is near infinite. And what's happened, from my understanding, is that half of this was sealed into Naruto. This has already been released, and it is in control of QB slash Naruto right now. The other half is still untapped and unable to be released for whatever reason. I believe Minato still has it sealed up somehow, and it cannot be released. And what seems to have happened in this last panel is basically this other half has sort of been moved by Naruto's passion, and it seems to be surmising, or it seems to be implicating that in the next chapter it will be released. So therefore, Naruto will have full control of QB chakra and will have a massive, huge boost in power. And a lot of people might be saying, "Oh, that means he'll far surpass Sasuke. Sasuke is already using his full potential as of right now. Sasuke is already on full power mode." I don't think that's true. Sasuke is still just like using. I mean, he's using a good deal, but I feel like he's still hiding a lot of techniques. I personally believe he has a lot of hidden motives, and that's why he's hiding a lot of techniques. Maybe he's saving them for the final duel with Naruto. And yeah, that's about it. That's all I have to say about that. And I can't wait for the next chapter. Thank you if you actually watched all 25 minutes of this review. As always, leave a comment below with your discussion, speculation, feedback, advice, clarification, and as always, like, rate, comment, and subscribe. It's completely free. I'll see you guys later. This has been Will, and I am signing out.